Okay, trustees, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the East Hampton Town Trustees of August 18th, 2024, and I'd like to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you do a roll call, please, Arlene?
Certainly. John Woodford. Here. Francis Bach.
Here.
David Cataletto.
Here.
Patrice Dalton.
Here.
Thank you. Ben Dollinger.
Here.
Tim Garneau.
Here.
Jim Grimes. Celia Josephson.
Here.
And Bill Taylor. Thank you.
Okay, start off with public comment. We have CCE fishery study presentation before us.
I'll just sort of introduce this. This is studies that are taking place off Beach Lane that the trustees asked for during the permitting process for South Fork Wind. We had input from some local fishermen that were concerned that the cable that came ashore at the Beach Lane beach might have impacts on the fish migratory patterns off the beach. So a study was agreed to. Stony Brook University is doing an acoustic telemetry study with sensors off the beach and a lot of fish that were tagged with acoustic tags that give off a signal that are picked up by the sensors. And Cornell Cooperative Extension is doing a trawl survey to look at the assemblage of fish types, species in the area from Montauk west to Southampton. So Mike Frisk from Stony Brook University is going to talk about the acoustic telemetry work, give us an update, and Scott Curtello-Wagoner from Cornell Cooperative Extension will give us an update of the trawl survey. So I'm not sure who's on Zoom, who wants to go first, Mike or Scott?
Yeah, thank you, John. Are we going to present from our screen?
Yeah, if you could share your computer screen share through Zoom.
He's on the picture. He's behind you. Is he on this one?
Yeah, he's on both.
Did that share?
That's it. Yep, we see it.
Yep, good job.
Okay, let me see is it still looking good?
Yeah, that's full screen now.
Okay. All right. Did you want me to start, or do you still have the action?
Sure, go. Why don't you start?
Yeah, let me just move this over. Okay, so just as a little background, I'm Mike Frisk at Stony Brook University, and I'm also here with two of the other PIs on the project. Matt Scafani is behind me, and Bob Serrato. And today we wanted to give you a brief update on the status of the project and show you some early results and take any questions about the progress of the project. And so let me get into that. Okay, good. So John alluded to this in his introduction, and I think we've presented these early slides here before, but just to go over, the cables do produce an electromagnetic field surrounding the cables. And this electromagnetic field has the potential to impact the behavior and movement of organisms, especially animals, electrosensitive fishes, and other animals in the ocean. And our study is designed to set up a system that if the electromagnetic fields impacted their movement, we would be able to detect it and be able to estimate an impact on changes to movement or migration through the area. And so for anyone not familiar with it, our array consisted, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but consisted of the west approach and the east approach. So basically this is an array that comes perpendicularly off the shore, and we can detect fish as they're entering the area from the west and the east. And then we have the cable approach, which is an array that runs along the cable route here, which is shown in this red dashed line. And then we have the fine scale array, which is shown right here. And actually today I'm going to focus on results from just the fine scale array, so you can get an idea of how well that's working to track fish behavior. And I'm going to just briefly mention some of the statistics. We are tracking, we have 1,400 active tags in our group. That is the group of the PIs of the project across our labs that represent 23 species. This does not include species that come from other organizations that we share data with from up and down the East Coast. So we have been real successful in getting tags out across a wide variety of species. These species include coastal shark, sturgeon, summer flounder, striped bass, skates, black sea bass, among many others. So far, in the first 3 periods, we download roughly every 6 months. In the first 3 download periods, we detected 260 individuals across 17 species in the fine scale array. And I'm not going to get too technical about these error measurements, but we look at the success of the fine scale positioning system through 3 different metrics. The first is a horizontal positioning error sensitivity. And this is a synthesized error. I won't get into the details of what that means, but essentially any values less than 15 are considered pretty good. And this estimate is done on all the fish being detected as they move through the array. The second one is a horizontal positioning error. And this is actually an error that gives you an idea of how well the fine scale arrays are working to position the fish, but it's based on positioning internal tags that are inside the tag. Inside the receiver. So each of these black dots is a receiver. They have a tag that's the same as the tag that are in the fish, but because we know the exact location of those receivers, we're able to calculate something called the horizontal positioning error, which is actually measured in meters. So you can get a direct estimate of how well we're positioning in terms of meters. The third is a detection time error, which is important to minimize. This is the root squared error. I'm not going to go into too much details about that, but I just wanted to give you a little background on 3 of the metrics we look at to measure our success. But before I get into looking at those error metrics, I want to show you a couple slides of some of our results. This is movement of summer flounder through the fine scale array. So a couple things you can see here. So each of the different colors is a different individual moving through the array. And we've been very happy with the performance of the fine scale array. We're able to track fish, so they're sending a ping depending on the tag and the coding of the tag, but they're sending a ping out every minute or every couple of minutes, and we're able to position each of those signals that are sent out. And you can see we're able to track very fine scale movement of fish, as they're moving. Some of them are moving through the array. Others appear to be doing more of a sort of foraging behavior, like these clusters over here. But we're actually very encouraged by the results here. And these are actually summed across the first 3 18-month period of the project, the first 3 download periods. skates, I know this is a pretty busy figure, but just to give you an idea, this is a clear nose skate moving through the system. We get a lot of skates through the system and very high resolution detections. Again, each of these colors is a different individual, so we've gotten a ton of skates during this period, and we're able to track them again on a very fine scale, and we can get an idea of what they're actually doing, whether they're foraging or just moving through. And if you just imagine for a second that if there was, for instance, a really major effect of the electromagnetic field, which is running through here, you might see a change in either aggregating closer to the cable or moving further away with data on this kind of resolution. And I will mention this first 18-month period is the period where they had not turned on the power to the system. So we're looking at data collected prior to the power being turned on to the cable. Okay, and just another example. This will be the last example because, I mean, we have lots of these that we can show, but I just wanted to show a couple of them. This is Atlantic sturgeon. Atlantic sturgeon appear to be moving through our system more in a migratory mode. They don't appear to be hanging out there. And you can see that the dots are a little bit further apart in this figure. That's because they have a longer delay on sturgeon. Actually have pegs that last 10 years compared to the 2.5 to 5 years on peg life on some of the other species. But again, getting pretty good data. Okay, so let's look into some of the diagnostics on the fine scale system. And just to give you, so this represents a 16-month period, the first 3 downloads. And this just summarizes here on the left detections by some of the species that are target species of the study. Atlantic sturgeon, black sea bass, clear-nosed skate, summer flounder, and little skate. It's not comprehensive. It's just to give you an example. The performance of our array has really been exceptional. Our HPE is 0.7 meters. So when we position a fish, we're able to position them with the accuracy of 0.7 meters. And if you look over at these 3 figures, this is HPE on the top figure for the 3 download periods. So in other words, this download 1, if you look at this data, the green and darker green are very good estimates in terms of low air. And as you get to the edges of the array, you can see they turn this red and orange, and you're getting less accurate estimates and higher error. That's to be expected because there's no receivers once you exit the fine scale array. So you're basically seeing a similar pattern across all 3 download periods for HPE, and you're also seeing a same pattern in the root mean squared error. Again, this is a error measured in time because time's important for positioning the fish. And basically this means that when the fish are swimming through the area, both of these are indicating that they're being positioned by 3 or more receivers, and the error is relatively low. So one of the things I did want to talk about, of course, is loss of receivers. And to show you just an example, this middle period, we had the following receivers were lost from the system. And so we had 5, so 5 out of 20 in this download period 2. So we wanted to look into that and see how that's impacting the performance of the receiver. And this level of loss, actually, the system seems pretty redundant, or not redundant, pretty resilient to this loss because the tags are able to be picked up by the next closest receiver. And if we look at this in a little more detail, on this top panel, this is the mean HPE, and it's showing very good values. Down here along the bottom, here are when started losing receivers. So these blue ones are calculated from the array. So when a receiver is removed from the system, we know it's removed because it stops being detected by adjacent receivers. We also know when receivers have been removed because we get quite a few that are returned to us by commercial fishers, and 2 of them are shown here. And you can see there's an uptick in the error, but it's still pretty low. And they went from 6.2 to 12.8, the HPE, which is all still in the good range. And in terms of error and time, the root mean squared error, we also see an uptick, but these are pretty good values. And it wasn't much of an uptick actually in error for in terms of time. So those are sort of the metrics that we've been following, and I think we can make some preliminary conclusions about the data that we've collected so far. First, our findings suggest that the fine-scale system, the fine-scale array, is effectively monitoring behaviors of a diversity of marine fishes down to less than a meter resolution. We're very excited about that. We think that kind of resolution will certainly see if there's a significant impact where we start looking at the download periods when the cable has been turned on. I should add also that we have had a paper accepted on in a scientific journal on this design and its behavior, which we can also make available to you. That just got accepted this week, and we're waiting for proofs to make corrections and get that published. So we do feel if the electromagnetic field or other activities associated with construction impact behavior in the system, will likely have the ability to detect those changes. And receiver loss does remain a challenge, not included in the figures I showed you here, but last fall we had the most significant loss we've had in the project, and it did impact our ability to position fish during that period last fall. I don't have those to show you. We've been working on analyzing that data, but that did have an impact, and hopefully we won't have that loss again. But overall, we've been very happy with the performance of the array and the project so far. I didn't show you movement through the approach arrays, but we're happy to come back and update you if you want additional information. So, and that's what I had today. Tried to keep it at about 10 minutes or so. Not sure how long I talked.
That was good. Thanks. Mike, I just, correct me if I'm wrong here. This study was supposed to begin in spring of 2021, and was a 5-year study. So next year will be the last year of the study. Is that the way you're operating?
Yes.
And I know in 2021, there was, the spring migration at least, and maybe the summer migration too, I can't remember, was missed because you had trouble getting, getting the receivers delivered. And do you feel as though that missing that data would significantly impact your ability to, make conclusions throughout the 5 years?
Well, I mean, the data that we have has been pretty informative. I mean, obviously, having more data is always better, but during the periods that we've been out there, and I just showed you the first 16 months, the data has been pretty good, and with the exception of fall of last year, and we're hoping that's not going to be repeated. And in fact, we were very successful in our most recent download in getting all the receivers. I haven't seen the position data yet from that, but we haven't seen that level of loss repeated that we had in last fall. I don't know if, hopefully I answered your question, John.
Yeah, sure. And I just said a question about whales. You know, I don't know when the whales showed up, but it was, I don't know if they were around before their study started, but have you had any problems with whales coming through the area and taking out receivers as far as you know?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And I noticed in your first slide that cetaceans are one of the groups that might be sensitive to electromagnetic, but I don't think there are any cetaceans tagged. Is that correct? That you'll be picking up with your receiver?
Do you know?
I think that's they have the passive hydroacoustic receivers.
I know they have the
Yeah,
passive.
passive PAMs, but they also have, I think the other people have done satellite tags too, like they got river foundation maybe.
Yeah, we're just having a little discussion to answer that question. I think, I could be wrong, that most of the tags on the whales are satellite tags, and they actually will have a much, depending on the satellite, the type, they would have a much lower spatial resolution, so that even within the area, it would be difficult to pinpoint that they were in this local area.
But there's also the PAMs, passive, the passive acoustic monitor.
Where are those? You know,
Those are, I believe, further offshore. I don't think they're in.
yeah, there's some passive acoustic monitoring going on, but we don't think it's going on in this area. But that's a good question, John. I could talk to some of the folks in the department that work on whales to get you more information.
Okay.
I have a question following on John's question, the first question about the loss of data in the first year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a 5-year study, correct? And year one was not complete in terms of observations?
Yeah, so it took us, I don't remember the exact dates, but we were delayed in getting the equipment just with building delays from, probably stemming from contractors and delays that were associated coming out of COVID.
So it's essentially a longitudinal study of 5-year duration. That was the original design. And now we're looking at something like 4, maybe a little bit more than 4-year duration. Is there anything that we can do in terms of looking at years 2 through 5 to kind of backfill year 1, or to be sure that year 1, having a 4-year study basically is as scientifically valid as what we have now?
So, I mean, we can't go and backfill data. The only option we would have is to extend it to get additional data.
Yes.
Right. So if you were not comfortable with year 1 being missing, that would probably be the way to do it.
Yeah, that's the only way. Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean backfill like populate your data, but just saying look at it and say, do you feel like you want another year of data?
How would that help, though? Because what was missed was pre-construction data,
Right.
pre-arming of the cable, if you will, data. Cable's now operational, so you're not going to get any data that shows how the fish are behaving with the cable not operating.
Right, but you'd get, I would call that baseline data. So it's before the intervention. The intervention is the energizing of the cable. So you can't go back and do that, right? You cannot go back.
No.
Right. And I think the original design of the study felt that 2 years post-construction, when the cable was charged, was sufficient to determine the fish behavior while the cable was charged. So I'm not sure if
Yeah, I get it.
data showing how the fish behave to the charged cable is
I don't know.
particularly helpful.
On consistent.
So there's,
It could be.
this is actually an interesting question and something that we wanted to follow up with Orsted to find out when the cable is fully charged, you know, is it fully charged 24 hours a day, or is it, you know, sometimes off, sometimes on? And that kind of information could be incorporated into the study as well. And if you had a longer time period of that, you would have more statistical power to look at that. And that is something I've been meaning, we've been meaning to talk to Orsted about, to see if we can get a time series of how much power is going through the cable, and when is it on and when is it off?
Can we just add to this?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to add that while we're doing a before, after, you know, a Backy design experiment, you can also use the positioning array for a longer term examination of the EMF on potential fish movement. And the reason I say that is because these tags are pretty long lived. They can keep going for multiple years in the same fish. So if those fish were to keep coming back, even if we're not continuing tagging after this last year, you can monitor and you can look at potential fine scale movement patterns in the electrified cable zone again. So you might be able to detect behavioral differences over multiple years and see if you get a stronger test overall for repeat fish encounters with the EMF. So there's value in extending it beyond this, for sure. And if they wanted to add more tags in, of course, that would add additional value. So I think it's something you can think about for those concerns with the fish migrations.
And excuse me, I'm gonna have a hard time.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, the kind of behavior we're looking at is, you know, the fish is moving through the array and it hits the area of the cable. Does it stay there a longer period of time than it would normally have stayed, or does it encounter the cable, turn around, go back the other way? So we're looking at the behavior of individual fish as they come through the array and how they're changing or not changing their behavior.
Yes.
So I think, in a sense, more important than the number of years, it's the number of fish that are tagged and we're tracking through the system.
Yes.
Right. I just got out of curiosity, are you working on other cable landings along Long Island? I know there are other projects out there.
Yeah, I am on the Sunrise project with Scott, and I mean with Brad Peterson on that one. Sorry, and we're using the same similar positional array on that, except we're also tagging, besides elasmobranchs, ranks, the focus is also on lobster and horseshoe crab movements as well, and Bob's on this as well, and as well as in Mauritius Bay. But those are, again, we're going to use the positional data is the highest resolution data, and that's in that grid, that really clustered array with the receivers. As Bob was saying, you're going to look at behavioral changes. So, you know, you can look at maybe swim velocities that would change in reaction to, or the duration spent throughout the EMF, directional changes. Mike, and on this study also, there's some tags that also give depth. So we'll know where the fish is vertically in relation as well. So you should be able to say if there's a change in the behavioral state of the animal in relation to that. And that's really important to say anything about the EMF. And obviously, the more encounters you have with that, the better off you're going to be able to infer if there's any effects of the cable.
Yeah, and actually, when I finish the talk, I realized that, we should have put striped bass in the talk.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. But
Yeah.
so we've been taking a lot of striped bass, and the striped bass have depth or acceleration tags in them, so that we will know whether they change their acceleration as they move through the system, and whether or not with the depth tag, you get a 3D movement profile. We have not analyzed those two higher level things yet, but I probably should have put a map of striped bass because it's a big component of the study.
Well, I think if you could get that duration of exposure that you were going to get from Orsted, like what time of day it was powered up and what days, that would really help the strength of your data analysis.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
We agree. And also, just so you know, I think the sunrise data, which is landing at Smith's Point, just further to the west of the South Fork project, that, those animals we're tagging are going to probably also be detected on the South Fork array and vice versa. So, we're going to increase some of our numbers of sample sizes on that as well. They're not mutually exclusive of one another.
Right.
Projects. So that should help.
Are you going to be getting pre-construction data on the other sites?
Yes, we are.
And it would be at least semi-comparable to what we could have expected here, right?
Yes. It all depends on the integrity of the array. We've had some gear loss, and we have to do the same analysis. That project is about 2 years behind the South Fork project, but if we do similar analysis, we should be able to say whether or not the integrity has been holding up. So far, we had a very good first year, and the second year, we're getting into the data now. So we'll have some answers on that, I think, in the winter months as we take a deeper dive.
So you will be getting a source of pre-construction data of normal fish migrations?
Yes.
They have it for us, but just for one spring season at least.
In a lot of these newer projects, they're not going to run into not being able to get the gear and stuff like that. And
They'll be able to start.
they'll be able to start at the right time, and while it's not exactly the same spot, it should have some, it should give us some sort of a baseline.
Yeah, I would think, yeah.
Hey guys, Chris Carrillo here. I'm a trustee attorney, but an avid fisherman, and I have a number of questions just understanding the methodology of this thing. So how and where are you catching these fish, and then where are you releasing them?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and there's actually a kind of a long answer. So we have we catch them on several different methods. We have we go out and do hook and line fishing where we catch fish. They're always released where they're captured. We never move fish to another location, and so we do a lot of hook and line fishing. Something like sturgeon are tagged on mostly the Nearshore Trawl Survey, which is a survey, a New York State DEC trawl survey that Bob Serrato and I run for the state, and so that is in state waters out to 3 miles, all the way along the coastal Long Island, then around Montauk and state waters as well. So that's where we take those. Striped bass, bluefish, weakfish, a lot of those are tagged by hook and line. The large sharks are caught in different locations, and they're also hook and line mostly. We also get those on the trawl survey and tag them on the trawl survey. So we have, in terms of telemetry projects, Orsted's one of them, but we're using tags across, of course, all of our projects. And so we have the Acoustic Gates project that it provides a sampling and a platform for tagging animals, the Nearshore Trawl Survey, as I mentioned before, and also our large coastal shark projects that are tagging sharks.
So where are you fishing out of? All over the South Shore of Long Island, basically?
All all over the place. I mean, we fish in the Peconic Bays, we fish out of Shinnecock, we fish out of Mauritius. I mean, it's really anywhere. And, you know, for instance, weak fish, we tag weak fish in the Peconic Bays, and then we pick them up in this system and our other systems on the coast of Long Island as they move south. And I should mention, you know, we get detections from these fish that were taken as this project all up and down the East Coast. I just showed you results for, you know, the project here, but the work here contributes broadly to the science that's being conducted for these species up and down the East Coast.
Okay. And then as far as the receivers, you mentioned that the receivers, like, if one goes missing, the other ones can detect that it's not picking up the ping from it. So what is it? Is it, do you have one with you? What does it look like? Is it something once you realize the other ones aren't being detected, can you easily go replace it? Or how does all that work?
So
the bottom?
Yeah, so they are, I don't have a picture of them here, but, you know, the design changed because of the interactions with the commercial fishery. And now we use a relatively light Dormore anchor, and that's attached to the receiver. The receiver has two, I guess it's called float balls. And if you're on the surface, you can communicate with the receiver. The receiver releases, and there's a line that unravels, and the floats come up to the surface with the receiver, and then you can pull in the entire unit, download the data. If you need to replace the battery, clean it, and then put the rope back in the canister and throw it back over.
So when you lost those 5 last year, it looked like 4 of them were generally right around the same distance from the shoreline. What depth was that? Was that in the surf zone, or was that within where draggers are? How far offshore were those 4 that seemed to be within the same area, you know, from the shoreline?
They're probably a mile out from the shore, but I'd have to go back and figure. They're not up on the beach, and definitely there's a pattern where we lose receivers, you know, with the behavior of the fleet. And, you know, we've lost a lot more than those 5. And we do get quite a few people calling us to come get them after they've captured them.
Those receivers are known, the locations are known to the fishermen, right?
Yes.
And are they, I mean, do you have reports from fishermen that they say they're able to see them and avoid them? Or do you not really get them?
They can't see them from the surface, but they can see them from, you know, if they entered the coordinates into the charts, they'd be able to see the coordinates.
Right. Do you have any indication that they're doing that, or many of them or some of them are doing that?
Yeah. Orsted has worked pretty extensively to get those coordinates out to the fleet.
And so who captured them and returned them? Was it draggers, gill netters? Who captured them and returned them?
It's been mostly squid, the squid fleet, and I think the squid fleet was further offshore this year, at least in the spring, I believe.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, Scott's shaking his head yes.
Yeah.
But so the squid fishery, just by, I guess, coincidence, was inshore for the first few years of our project. And maybe Scott can talk about this more. But it was further offshore this year. As you know, a lot of things were a little different this year. The menhaden were further off the beach, and the sharks were further off the beach in general this year for some oceanographic reasons. But anyhow, I think we got all of them back on our last download. Let me talk to my technician to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure my memory's right on that.
Thanks, guys.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're
Yes, thank you.
welcome. You're welcome.
So Scott, are you ready, on and ready?
Yep, I'm on.
Okay.
Share. All right, can you see this?
Yes.
Is there anything? All right. Just. All right. Yeah. So I'm Scott Curatello-Wagman from Cornell Cooperative Extension's Marine Program. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm just going to give a kind of an update as to where we are. This presentation was kind of done to go along with our annual report we do for Ørsted. So this is kind of highlighting, what we did in 2023 and kind of have some summaries of, what we did in 2023 and what we've done so far. So I'm going to just go over a background real quick, the kind of particulars of the project, just to refresh everyone's memory. Again, this is our trawl survey. It complements the inshore telemetry project that Mike and Bob and Matt just presented. And again, it's done on the request of the town as part of Ørsted's package here to kind of see what kind of assemblages of fish were inshore beforehand, what's going on during construction, and what's going on 2 years of post-construction. So right now, again, when this was written, and kind of, you can see it says 6 seasons of baseline data. So that kind of gets to, John, your question about, what was done the first year in 2021. So 2021 was the summer and fall trawl surveys. And then in 2022, there was the other 4 pre-construction. So we had 6 seasons of pre-construction trawl survey data. So again, in this one, we're going to have some, high-level data as far as what we kind of saw on the trawl survey in 2023, which kind of coincided with all 4 of those seasonal trawls being during construction of the cable and the wind farm, way offshore. And again, for this project, my team is the one out there physically gathering the data, but then Drs. Matt Sclafani and Bob Serrato will be doing the actual data analysis to look at the assemblages of fish and see how, it may have changed over the 5-year period of the project. So this is the survey design we're using. It's the standard survey design used for the NEMAP, which is the Northeast Area Monitoring and Assessment Program. So we use the same gear as they do. A lot of the other researchers up and down the coast who are also doing some fisheries monitoring using trawl surveys are using the same type of nets. Luckily, we have not had to use any backup nets, but there is kind of an informal agreement with some of us researchers that if someone is not using a net, or we can kind of trade and swap nets back and forth. So the red dots there, those are electronics that are hooked up to the trawl, and those are fed back up to the wheelhouse so we can make sure that the door spread on that trawl is within the correct parameters for valid trawl. But then it's also sending times about, the depth, the speed, direction, and things like that, so that we can keep a good wheelhouse data on everything. This is just a snapshot of our CTD probe, which is the conductivity, temperature, and depth probe. So this is deployed each tow, and this gives a little bit more view of the environmental parameters going on when we're out at sea on these tows. We're using the fishing vessel Bulldog. It's an 80-foot stern trawler. So far, that it's the only boat we've had to use. There was one trip. It was a winter trip. I forgot when, but the Bulldog had actually been in dry dock for the whole season, and we came close to having to use a different vessel from Rhode Island. But just at the end of the season, we were able to, the boat was able to get in the water, and we were able to get the survey completed. So, hoping to continue so that, we have some nice consistency over all the trawl that we do, that it's all aboard the Bulldog. And obviously at this point, we have a pretty good system. Everyone's comfortable with where we're going and how the operation is going. So this is the kind of the 2023 overview. With the dates there, the winter trawl survey was February 22nd through the 25th, and we had 42 tows. Spring was May 9th through the 13th with 49 tows. Summer, August 3rd through the 7th, 47 tows. And fall was just about a year ago, the 17th of October through the 21st of October, and we had 46 tows. And you can see the two different colors there. The impact would be tows done within the export cable zone of influence, so basically from more or less Beach Lane east, and then the reference zone is a zone kind of west, roughly from Moriches to Beach Lane. The way we do it with choosing the stations, we shoot for 40 stations per trip, equally divided between the two, so 20 in each. You can see in the photo there, we have the telemetry array in there so that we know, which boxes we can eliminate, so we know not to tow in those boxes. But based on this, we have 4 different depth strata, 20 to 40 feet, 40 to 60 feet, 60 to 90 feet, and 90 and above. And we try to choose stations, it's a ratio, so that, the ones that have more stations, we're actually sampling more, but we do a minimum of 2 stations in each strata. And again, this is the same way that the NEMAP survey does it when they do their trawl survey from, Virginia on up through New England. So here's where actually all the different surveys, the tows were done in 2023. Hard to see, but the blue lines represent the winter, the green, the spring, the pink is summer, and that orange is kind of fall. And you kind of, again, see that kind of area where the, export cable actually is, that there's, very little activity in there, again, because we just want to steer clear there and make sure we're not, interacting with any of that. The catch processing we do as they do for the NOAA Observer Program. So all the catch comes up on board. We work up each catch independently. It's in the net, it's in the pen. We sort through it by species, and then we start the process of weighing it all and individually measuring certain species, the important ones, and ones that we only have a few of. We're also, kind of get to the whale question. That was a big concern for Ørsted early on. So all of our staff had to be protected species certified. So for all of our all of our trips, there is one staff member who, while we're doing tows and the boat is underway, their kind of sole purpose is to keep watch for interactions with protected species, specifically whales, but also sea turtles. And obviously when we're doing trawls, we haven't gotten any protected species other than sturgeon. I don't know the actual number. We probably encountered anywhere between a dozen to 20. I know this past spring I think we had about 5 or 6 interactions with sturgeon.
Scott, do you
so
tag
here's-
those? Scott, do you
I'm
tag
sorry?
those? Are you tagging any of those fish?
We are not, but we have a pit tagger. And we get fin clip samples, I believe. So we don't have the equipment to do the tagging, but we do have a tag reader. And about, don't quote me, I know a good percentage actually do have the tag on them, so that, there's some information about them already.
Thanks.
So for 2023, the summary of it, we caught just over 76,000 pounds of fish, and that was comprised of 74 unique species. And here's kind of the breakdown of the top, 12 species that we caught. Get a lot of scup, longfin squid, butterfish, spiny dogs, and then on the lower right there, you can see kind of the weights by season. I think in that fall, if I remember correctly, that's where a lot of that northern sea robin of 7,800 pounds, I think that's a good portion of that catch was from northern sea robins. This is just kind of a heat map as far as where we caught, those stations that we did sample in 2023. The pounds that were caught. And then so far, this is kind of the overall what we've been seeing out there. So we've caught, just over 175,000. And again, this is by the end of 2023 with 94 different species being caught. And then you can see, the biggest thing we've caught a lot of spiny dogs, butterfish, scup, sea robin, squid, little skates, smooth dogs, winter skates, striped bass, and then menhaden are the top 10 species that we've collected so far over, I guess this would have been 10 seasonal tows. And that may actually be it. So, questions?
Are you using the same size bag for every tow?
Yes.
How big is it? What size?
Honestly, I don't remember offhand. Forgive me. I can look that up and send it to you, but offhand, I don't remember, or I can try to look for it on the fly here.
How does the size of the bag compare to a typical commercial trawler?
Well, it's a standard, and that's why it's the same one that NEMAP uses, so they can be comparable to commercial fishing.
Well, they change them out what they're targeting, John, so it's not really a comparable thing. It's more of what you're targeting. Small bag for squid and butterfish, and a large bag for pretty much everything else.
So Scott, this is a question for both, but you're up heavy. I think your answer will probably suffice for both. Next year is the last year of sampling for the study. How long do you think it's going to take to analyze the data and come up with conclusions and be able to report your findings after next season's trawling?
It's an interesting question. And I kind of already have an answer with this that I was discussing actually with Matt the other day. And in looking at the budget and where we were, I kind of realized, to the previous question about, surveys and stuff that, our survey, our last one, if it's fall, could be anywhere between, September and mid-November or December. And that the contract actually runs out on December 31st. So I began the process of seeing about getting a no-cost extension just for that specific reason that, if we do our last trawl for the fall, the beginning of December of 2025, Bob and Matt are going to need some time to go through that data. But one of the the big things we found, and apparently it's been a while since I've looked at the contract, is that in the contract it actually says 6 months after the final tow is when they expect the final report for the trawl survey.
So the last trawl survey of 25 is the fall survey? It's not
Correct.
going to be, it's not a winter survey? The winter will come in the beginning of 25.
Correct. Now, with the question about, and this is something, we can discuss, and I'll talk to, Bob and Matt about the extra data, even if it's post-construction, is that, again, because we did not do 2 trawls in, winter, spring of 21, we technically have money to do 2 more trawls. We can't, because it's seasonal trawl, I can't fit 2 more trawls in if we're just doing it seasonally. So either we find a different, avenue for that, the funds there, or to see if it, makes sense and if Orsted is amenable to it, to get a winter and spring 26 and then extend that out so that, essentially in my head thinking about extending the whole project by a year to 2026 so that the trawls would end in spring of 2026 and then we would have that 6 months at the end of 26 to do the data analysis.
Okay.
I have a question about the analysis. What is it that you're trying to analyze? The pre-energized counts with the post-energized, or would you also be interested in looking year to year and seeing how the counts compare when the cable is energized?
I think mostly it was pre and post, but that would be a question for, I guess, Matt and Bob as far as what the back analysis could actually look, expect.
Yeah, sorry, William, you say it again.
Yeah, if I can talk, it's pre and post.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It is pre and post. And
there will be some element of interannual differences.
Yes.
As well.
And also we're going to look at potential trajectories of differences between the pre and post using a community trajectory analysis.
So are the samples in the different areas, is the community structure changing over time? And if it's changing over time, is it getting more similar or less similar as you go ahead in time?
I think that's interesting because the pre and post, you're really limited by the pre-period. You can't extend it. But if anything you can get more description about in the post period might be informative.
Yeah, we agree.
And I just add, since John asked the question, we're in a similar boat with the analysis. I mean, we're going to collect data up to the very end of the project. We're not going to pull the receivers until to the very end of the project. And on our side, Innovus processes the data first, and that takes them, after each download, a few months. So
we have to visit that issue of telemetry for the contract.
Yeah.
So we'll be asking for
robust time extension
on that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, but we'll probably be asking for a no-cost extension as well.
Yeah, and then aren't you comparing the impact zone to the east of Beach Lane to the non-impact zone to the west of Beach Lane?
Yeah.
I would just say that, if you need support going to Orsted looking for additional time to analyze the data or maybe collect more data, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I'm sure the board would be happy to go to bat for you on that account.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And again, some initial talks with Orsted is they're fine with the no-cost extension. at least for some of the data analysis, obviously, going into at least, May of 2026, so that we have that 6-month window from whenever the last fall survey is done. But yeah, the next part is to see, if it's possible for the actual funds that are kind of in there to be used for 2 extra trawls to then extend it even more.
Are you still going to look at the area west of Beach Lane and east of Beach Lane? Do you still have those study areas set up that way?
Yes, they'll still be the same.
Oh, so that's a good study design. Yeah.
Scott, are you also doing trawl surveys for other landings, cable landings?
This is the only one. We've been talking with Ørsted and others, different types of projects, but this is the only one that we absolutely have. We did have something with the sunrise wind, but I'm not sure it's valid anymore because it was part of, if I believe it was correct, it was part of their bid for the sunrise wind. And since they rebid, I don't know that the things they had in there are still on the table. And those were not necessarily trawl surveys. There were some projects that they had that they identified that they would like to do. And some of it was, commercial fishing, health screenings, because again, this is during COVID, some of this came up, doing some commercial fishing, safety training, and, outfitting boats with updated gear for safety. But then I think there was some possibility of doing some testing of gear in and around arrays, so to keep the commercial fishing going, in the event that they cannot fish around the arrays or in the arrays. But those are conversations I've been having with other wind farm companies as well.
Okay.
And a lot of it just comes down to whether or not they're funded and whether or not they're landing the cable in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have questions? No? Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
All right.
everybody.
Appreciate
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, everyone. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really good presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good weekend.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night. Matt, do we have anybody on the lines?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to committee reports, and Christopher Kahn. We're not going to keep you here all night, Chris. He's here requesting funding assistance with the D'Amico house restoration.
Correct, yes. I'm Christopher Cohan from the Victor D'Amico Institute of Art. And I'm a resident of Lazy Point since 1975 also. And the barge has 2 sites, the art barge itself and then the D'Amico property, the 3 house lots in Lazy Point. That was granted by the town trustees back when Mabel D'Amico died in 1998, that the art barge could operate the 3 house lots as a house museum, a study center, an exhibition space, and an archive of their personal educational papers. There's the main house, the D'Amico house, that they built starting in 1940. There's the little house, as it's called, which I'm here to talk, and was an original house in the Montauk settlement out in Fort Pond Bay that was brought over to the Lazy Point site in about 1939 after the 38 hurricane. And then there's a smaller hut, an oyster watcher's hut, which is now our administrative office center. And so the little house was occupied by a very well-known artist of the time, Alexander Brooke, who was a traditionalist painter who painted society portraits and theater people in New York City. Also had a house in Sag Harbor, Point House, when you go over the bridge to North Haven, a big old colonial home that's still there. But this was his getaway home that he had equipped inside. And I think there's some photos that I sent. Allison can just bring them up and, show them ongoing.
Just give me a minute. I wasn't aware that you wanted to show you, so just bear with me.
And so that little house was used by Alexander Brooke until, because he was a traditional painter, by 1950, when abstract expressionism became popular and his form of painting went out of fashion, he sold the little house to Mabel D'Amico, and they used it as their guest house from 1950 up until the time of her death. So it really shows an example of, early sort of fisherman artist cottage, interior and exterior. That's okay, whenever it shows up, no problem. And the Robert David Lyon Gardner Foundation just proposed a matching challenge grant for $5,000 to $10,000 to not-for-profit organizations. And I thought this was a good opportunity to try to raise the money so that we could start a feasibility study, and then also to help restore the little house. It needs probably new roofing and some siding. And it's also traditional, still in a traditional Lazy Point attitude where there's no foundation, because if you broke the lease, you could always move the house off the property. So it still is, it's 20 feet by 30 feet. You could probably fit 6 of these buildings in this structure right here. So with the possibility of getting this grant to start with not only a feasibility, but also then to really start on the preservation of the little hut, would really then preserve it for future generations to show a traditional form of local architecture. They don't build them like that any longer. Contrasting with the modernist D'Amico house, interior and struck architecture also. And it's just been one way of me and my board of trustees at the Art Barge preserving what we have and maintaining and following through with the original proposal that we gave to the trustees back in 1999. So I'm asking for the board to partner with the D'Amico Institute to help put this money together so we could get the Gardner Foundation to match it and get it going. And so that's the outside of the little house facing the water. There's another photo of the back of the house facing the street. There's interior photographs.
Is there plumbing and electric in there?
There is. It's no longer operable. We never connected the little house to the town water that was put in there because I was afraid it would just blow the pipes. Because also the way it's constructed is all of the pipes are on the interior of the structure. They go through the walls up over the ceiling and down. Nothing was underneath because it was heated by an old-time kerosene heater. So that as the heat would rise, it would warm the ceilings and keep the pipes from freezing.
Would this be open to the public?
It's all open to the public, yes. We have, and I invite the board, if they haven't been to the D'Amico house, to come and visit. The D'Amico house, the little house, only in the summertime, July and August, we open it up. We don't charge the public. It's free of charge to attend just by appointment, calling up. So it would really show, again, the real contrast of how they don't build them like this any longer. It's really tiny.
So this is a little house? That's what we're looking at?
This is it's called the Little House, yes, yeah, the Alexander Brook House. Are there any other interior, or is that it?
These are the three that I saved. I wasn't given specific.
Okay.
I can try and go back to my email and see
No,
what's there.
that's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get an estimate how much the total project would cost?
Not yet, no. And I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money on such a small project. We have other priorities with the Art Barge building, the D'Amico House, the archives. There's a lot of other things. We'll mainly use the house for just a purpose as like a sculpture or like a piece of artwork, whereas you come and you view it. We don't house anybody in the three structures. They're really not capable of having anybody in. And part of the original agreement with the town trustees was that we wouldn't use them as any sort of a residency program. And they're really fragile buildings as is. The long-term project would be to raise more money to restore the D'Amico House itself. The little house, because of its size, really shouldn't cost that much, especially since we're not trying to upgrade it to livability. You know, it's like taking care of a sculpture. So I want to keep a solid roof on. Part of the walls need to be reshingled. We need to get underneath and to some of the building, some of the corners just have some brick columns, of short brick columns that really need to be stabilized also. So that's what this feasibility study would also show, is that how far is the building, how far is the building deteriorated, how much really needs to be done, and then just with local carpenters, it shouldn't cost a huge restoration project.
And they're all on trustee land?
Yeah, all three properties are on trustee land, right? There's 3 house lots, right? And that was when we petitioned the board back in 1999. That was the unique quality of the whole circumstance, is that the D'Amicos had 3 house lots, where a lot of people at that point only had 1 house lot. So it was an exception to begin with right from the beginning. So instead of selling them all outright, either separately or in one whole lot, it was one way, to preserve the structures and the interiors also. Part of the uniqueness with the Little House is that a lot of historic restoration projects only maintain the outside of the buildings. And so in the inside, a lot of things have been updated and modernized and gutted and opened up. The Little House, if there were, and you might have some, you might be able to bring up the other photos at some point, and you can see the inside. Alexander Brook appointed it with shutters from older houses as doors, distressed wood, unique architectural interior, and the combination of living in it as like an artist fisherman's hut, which was rather novel and aesthetic and cultural, was rather unique. So it's sort of like an interior art box, in a sense, that you walk into. And because the scale is so tiny, it's rather unique in its structure.
The inside looks way better than the outside.
Yeah, I just showed everyone the pictures I took when I was there a couple weeks back.
Great.
Do you know if the restoration work that you're considering is going to expose you to any FEMA regulations?
It could.
I don't know, you're not doing any real...
But again,
Not for habitation.
I'm not wanting to go that far and to raise it, up to structure so that it, can withstand a hurricane. I mean, I'd really like to restore it in a lazy point fashion, where, we just maintain it on new pilings, just off the ground so that you can, get somebody to crawl under if need be, or, that the raccoon or the cat can get out in a sense.
These structures have status of museum?
And yes, all three structures and the art barge now have been designated East Hampton local landmarks. And also they're all part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Historic Artist Home and Studios, which is a program that the National Trust has over 60 artist homes and studios throughout America. So this also then puts the D'Amico House and the Alexander Brooke House right into, adds another historic artist home, within that, and gives Alexander Brooke a little bit more credential, and having been kicked down by abstract expressionism. So it's kind of a neat contrast and then it also, again, just shows the preservation of how things were, and that they're not lost. And uniquely so for the trustees, where you're stewards of the land and we're stewards of the structures also. So that, again, it would be a great partnership to, have the financial, combination.
So what are the details of the challenge grant from?
It was very open-ended. It could be used for any type of program, not just specifically for any kind of restoration work, which was unique and a little different for the Gardner Foundation. They can be very specific as to how you apply it or what you apply for. This was allowing a lot of not-for-profit organizations to be a little bit more open-ended and go to them and request.
So are they looking to match donations of $5,000 to $10,000 or?
Correct. The minimum was $5,000. The maximum was $10,000. I already have $1,000 from the Lazy Point Neighborhood Association, all my neighbors, who were all behind it and quite accepted that the three houses are there and that people visit and drive up and down. I mean, we keep it very low key. And then my fellow board trustees at the Art Barge will put up another $4,000 to $5,000. And so if we could match another $5,000 to that, we would then, the guarantee would be the $20,000, from the Gardner Foundation. And so that for a little 20 by 30 structure should really get a lot accomplished, definitely.
I can forward the pictures to everyone. It was on the original email that.
They saw them all. Yeah.
Oh, you saw
I just
them all?
passed my phone.
I only saw one.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we support this project and donate $5,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? There you go.
Thank you very much.
The historic status.
This is just some extra paperwork.
Thank you. With the historic status, does that tie your hands as to what type of materials you can use and things like that? Are there any historic?
It's not that specific. No. And I mean, this would be. There's no plywood in the little house whatsoever. I mean, it's planks. And it's cedar shingles and not even 2x4s. I don't know. There's some photos in that paperwork that show the little houses out in Montauk, and they were I'm surprised that it shows that they weren't that as demolished as I thought Fort Knox had become. They just kind of were picked up off their little foundations and moved around. So they're pretty well built for their time period. But we're not, again, altering the outside whatsoever. And it's just really a architectural stabilization.
Think about the materials you're required to use.
I don't think it's that historic.
That's right. It's not like 1800s. Yeah. And again, we can also find there's lots of old beams and things on the property that even wash up on shore still that can be still reused.
Connecticut history then.
Exactly. Yeah. Dead bodies. And again, it's not that large of the amount of material is not that large, to be reused. So,
is there anything you have to do immediately to keep it from deteriorating further?
There is a tarp on the roof, and that will help. Definitely, yeah. And the The interior is just going to then get cataloged and boxed and then stored in the barge building. And if we don't have any work done by April of next year, we'll rent a pod. The funding can go for that. We'll keep the pod on the barge parking lot property instead of on the Lazy Point property on Shore Road. So it doesn't obstruct any other cars or anything. So, and again, it shouldn't take really that long. So I thank you all very, very much.
You're
Yes.
welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, on to new business. Start with a request from InterScience to use Trustee Beach to access existing revetment to perform test excavations on the revetment fronting on 201 Lily Pond Road on October 29th, 2024.
I make a motion to give them, grant the request for,
Is that access from Main Beach to get over there?
It's gonna have to be.
Yeah.
Well,
How far down is?
I believe they're accessing from Georgia.
From Georgia.
From Georgia.
Yeah, this is the end of West End Road.
Oh, it's that, okay.
He was here last meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good project.
Yeah. Second.
In favor?
Second.
Okay. USGS buoy in Georgia Pond. Do you know anything about this buoy? Okay. Apparently, there is a partnership of USGS, Friends of Georgia, and the Village of East Hampton. They have a 4-year agreement with USGS. USGS is paying for 25% of the project. The balance is being split between the village and the Friends of Georgia. I think it was about $28,000 for the 4 years.
That is the project.
I believe it's just the tides. It's just
maintaining
the tide
the-
one.
That's
Yeah.
that's the buoy that gives you the pond level.
When you go online and you get the pond levels, it's coming from this buoy.
I think it's the maintenance is.
So a 4-year agreement is up. And it seems that there's been a pretty hefty increase. My understanding is it may be 51,000 for the next 4 years. But this is for the entire length of the project. So
4 years. 4 years.
4 years. So if USGS takes 25% of that, is that 1250? Something like that.
Yeah.
And the other two partners are asking if the trustees would be willing to split the balance 3 ways on this. We don't need to have an answer now. I'm giving you the
50
general.
minus 12, 5 roughly,
Yeah,
split 3 ways.
yes,
And you're in there, so.
yeah, for 4 years. I mean, that will cover the 4 years. Seems pretty inexpensive to me.
And the partners are,
The association.
Friends of Georgia
In the village.
in the village.
Why they're asking us for funding?
what are they paying now? What is the village and the Friends paying now? Half of it.
75% of about 28,000.
So the base price is basically double.
Seems to.
So it's about the same.
Have we supported this
That's
financially?
about 9,000 each.
Yeah, but with the large
I
increases.
don't think we've ever done it in the past.
Yeah, we have we
Been
chipped in?
asked
and-
to.
Yeah, I don't recall this agreement coming about, to be honest with you. I may have missed it, or I just don't remember it. It was only 4 years ago. Most of us should remember it.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Some ring a bell, Chris? At all?
I thought that Chris Gobler was gathering all that data, was generating all that data.
No, that's the different buoy. There's two buoys in it. This is the one that the USGS has had. I don't know if I can. But the USGS has had there for.
I believe it's the level, yes.
It's the one that determines the.
I'm not sure if it's doing temperature. It may.
Does it help us decide when we need to let the pond?
Is there another, has anybody raised the possibility of another option?
The other option would be not doing it, not having it there.
Why, isn't there another, I mean, USGS is the only agency that can do it?
It was their proposal.
They've been doing it.
They came to the village, and the village agreed to it.
What's their goal?
I'm sorry?
What is their goal?
I'm not sure.
I think we should, I don't know. I kind of
There's
like,
more information coming. Yeah. As I said, I'm just giving you guys a heads up at this point. Probably the next meeting, the rest of the information will be available.
from who?
Village. They're the ones who contacted us.
So who initiated this originally, the village?
I believe USGS. It was a grant that was out there. I don't know if the village at that time applied for it. It was a different board 4 years ago. Those people are no longer there. But it was a grant that was offered to the village, and they accepted it.
Do we know what variables it's going to collect?
Sounds like tide. Sounds like pond level.
Yeah,
So-
you
So
could
no
go to the USGS site and look up the buoy and see what information it's giving.
Okay.
I wonder if Peconic, well, I don't know if that falls within the Peconic estuary, but I know the USGS has done tide buoys for the Peconic estuary program. There's one over in the ferry slip in North Haven.
Worth asking, right?
What's that?
Worth asking.
It'd be worth talking to the village about
no
looking for
big rush on it,
partners as well. I don't know.
I asked for this to be on the agenda later about PEP mini grants. And this might be a candidate for one of their mini grants,
That's true. That's true.
20 to 50,000.
It's true. What's the time frame, deadline for that, or time?
November 1, the submission has to be in. And this seems like it'd be a pretty straightforward one. It's no scientific hypotheses or anything. It's just description,
All right.
what it is. The grant application is on their website. See if it actually fits their program.
Okay. The mini grants?
Yeah.
Yeah, mini grants. I'll send you what I have on it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Kim Shore has requested to extend the length of employment for intern Emily Klein. So Emily, we already extended her time. They're asking for another 3 weeks, I believe. At that point, Emily's going to be hired as a full-time employee with the town in the Natural Resources Department. So they're just looking to fill in the gap.
Just 3 weeks more than what we already discussed, or just that's it?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, I think it's the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's she intern for?
Natural Resource, she was doing the plovers. And they've kept her on for doing some other stuff on the beaches, and now they're gonna hire her. CP CPF water quality funding request with continuous level monitoring system for pumped out holding tanks in Montauk.
Yeah, I'm on the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, representing the trustees. And Melissa Winslow Melissa McCarran is her new name, sent out a question to the members, or the committee members. I'll read it. Attached is a quote for an advanced monitoring system for the pump out tank in Star Island. The town, through the CPF water quality grants, replaced the pump out tank system out in Montauk in 2023. And at Gann Road in 2024, there's a high level alarm on the system, but there's no continuous level sensor in the tanks. The system is occasionally bypassed by the operator. There have been overflows at both sites this year more than once because the tanks are not being monitored at the level they should be. Ed Michaels is requesting that these continuous level sensors be purchased and installed to allow for better monitoring of the tanks, to prevent overflows, direct discharges to the harbors, and to give the town the ability to call for a pump out prior to the high level alarm when it's needed as soon as possible. The system would also allow us to hold the pump out companies accountable for the real volume of waste that gets removed. Currently, there's no way to cross-check the amount of waste that's actually removed and the amount reported by the pump-out company and charged to the town. Reaching out to the committee to see if members are supportive of purchasing 2 of these units to improve the function and monitoring of the pump-out tanks. The total price tag of that seems to come to about $21,500. I indicated I was supportive of it, but I just wanted to run it by the board and get your agreement to support that water quality money.
I support that because it came up during the holiday period, the 4th of July, like how do we know the pump out boat can accommodate that much? And I definitely support this myself.
How long does that 21 last for?
Well, it buys those 2 monitoring units.
How long? Is that like 5 years it'll last or something?
I have no idea what their lifespan is.
But they said they observed it overflow, right? Isn't that what?
It has overflowed more than once.
Yeah. It has been a problem.
Yeah.
I know Jim was brought this to the board when the new tanks were proposed. And then they've been installed, but I guess the monitoring is inadequate, really. So.
Somebody to make a motion?
Well, you just want to know.
I just wanted to let the board know, make sure that I was voting the right way.
No, it sounds like something we want. Just the information there on the buoy.
This is
a
about
little bit of
the
it.
messages. Oh,
All right, so we'll move on to committee reports, the largest clam contest recap.
All right, so we had a very successful largest clam contest. Thanks to everybody, with all 9 trustees for helping out. And we had a really nice partnership with the Amagansett Lake Saving Station Museum, and they really enjoyed having it there. At our last meeting, we took a vote. We want to have it again, and everyone wants to do it. Also, I want to thank definitely Allison Flinius, our trustee head of administration. She was phenomenal. She just went beyond and above and beyond. So thank you, Allison. And Arlene too, thank you so much. And so as far as I know, we had well over 500 attendees. And everything was really spread out on the new site. At the museum, a lot of people went to the museum. Our docents said they've never been so busy. And we had a subcommittee meeting to go over areas of improvement. So we have a bunch of ideas, but just a couple big ones that When we do the winning announcements, we want to have all the trustees up on the porch and just have a little more organization there with our, and then also there were some guests who were going up like 5 or 6 times to get to the same station. So we ran out of food at some stations after like an hour and a half. It's a 3-hour event. So we're thinking of having a system where each guest gets 4 tickets that you can use for the clams on the half shell, the chowder, fish, clam pie. So that way everyone gets some, but not, it's not like some people are taking too much, being a little bit greedy. So we can last until the end of the 3 hours. So we're thinking about that. And also we only had 1 youth involved, so we want to get more youths involved. So I need to do a better job with, outreach with our education, our schools. Like kids should be out in the mud getting clams, so we want to work on that. And like I said, we voted, the Life Saving Station voted to have it there again. So I was going to propose to vote. We could vote tonight for Sunday, September 28th, because the end of the September seemed to really work with everyone's calendar, and the water's still warm for clamming.
Did you look at the tides at all?
Yeah, the tides kind of designates it a bit.
I didn't check the tides, actually. No. So
I got some feedback that people felt they'd rather see it a little earlier.
A little earlier.
In the season.
Okay. Well, let's check the tides, and then maybe next meeting we can. That way we can just start getting everybody lock them in and just get it.
I think participation.
Wait a minute.
Clamming.
Wait. Who's in charge of this thing?
I'm just saying, that's the feedback I had.
Why earlier? What's
Too cold, the
It
water.
was too cold. It was kind of.
It used to be like 2-3 weeks later. Wasn't it in October in the past?
Nobody's out there clamming right now?
There were only 8 entries. Only 8 entries
One
total.
kid.
So, anyway.
So maybe we'll check the tides. The next meeting we can vote on a date, so we can.
Figure out how to get more kids clamming too somehow.
We were thinking of doing like a few weeks before we could come clam with a trustee, and we could have a date. You can meet with one, and we could meet at different bodies of water, take kids out and show them how to clam.
Good idea.
That's fun. That would be fun.
Yeah, get them excited about clamming again.
I think getting it on the calendar this early is a great idea, so we know we can plan around it.
Yeah, we can line everything up. So,
yeah.
But thanks to everybody.
Check the tides and talk about it next meeting. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thanks, Pat.
Yep, good job.
Thanks.
All right, PEP mini grants. Bruce?
Yeah, I also wanted to do something for old business on the Old Stone Highway culvert. Can I speak about that first?
Sure.
Yep. So the last meeting we had, I think it was 9/23, I spoke about the permit expiration for the Old Stone Highway culvert renovation project. And Melissa wrote back on the 25th, and she answered the question about the contractor being on board and how long they needed. So I can read you from this letter that she wrote. Should please consider this letter a request for the renewal of East Hampton Town Trustee Permit A-2-23 for the East Hampton Town Project Old Stone Highway Culvert Replacement. This permit was issued November 13, 2023 to remove the existing corrugated metal arch culvert and replace with aluminum alloy structural plate arch, placement of large stone headwall stabilization, and removal of 6,750 square feet of invasive Phragmites. The town, through a bid, has retained a contractor to complete the work, which is set to commence in fall of 2024. No work has been completed on site to date. On this contract, the town would like to request an extension of 1 year to allow for this work to be completed in its entirety. Please feel free to reach out to myself or engineers at LK McLean with any questions. So I would like to make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
So I just have I think this came up last meeting too, administratively. This is a request to extend a permit
Yes.
by letter, right? Just by letter, not by
Yeah.
not by another application.
It's, right, we're extending the existing permit, that's all.
So
It didn't
We're
expire.
not reissuing it, we're extending it.
we're not giving another 1-year permit, we're extending an existing 1-year permit. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I guess.
Yes.
Well, I looked at the schematics and all the paperwork, and they're exactly the same. And the only thing is that this one didn't actually expire yet. They're extending it.
No, I'm not objecting to,
Okay.
I'm not objecting to anything, I just, there should be one, I think for the simplicity's sake, for administrative simplicity, there should be one track for extending permits or granting an extension, or you grant a permit in 1 year, we didn't get the work done, so we want to wrap it into the second year. There should be one procedure for that. I don't know if there sometimes people make an application for the next year. Always just by letter.
We've been doing it all the time.
To extend a project that wasn't able to get started on time, and to expect the applicant to resubmit maps and drawings and everything else, I think is quite, it's expecting a lot.
If this is the procedure, then let's make it the procedure.
It's been going like that for years since
There's no fees involved or.
there's a fee, there's a renewal.
There'll be a fee, yeah.
There'll be a fee?
Not in this case. But we did do this for that rock revetment on Water's Edge, that he hadn't, the last one that we did, we couldn't access it. That person had not started it, and we used the existing application and extended it for another year.
Yeah, this is a town public works project, so there is no fee.
I know.
So we're good? Okay, PEP.
PEP, so, let's pull this up here. PEP issued a call for submissions for these grants. They're calling them mini grants. And they are between $20,000 and $50,000. I attended a video conference about what it entailed, and it's really submitting a form by November 1st. They have examples of it, and they limited it to applicants had to be like a not-for-profit or something. It couldn't be a commercial entity putting in for this, but a not-for-profit, or I'm not sure. That's why I'm not sure if they would consider the village a not-for-profit, but they could contract it out. So it's...
One quick question, Patrice. Do we know when these grants are awarded?
They were supposed to be awarded in December. I have the timeline, we'll just pull it up.
Friends of Georgia could apply, they'd be a not-for-profit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Timeline.
I think the
falls
trustees.
within the contract.
Time-wise?
Yeah.
It says winners announced December 2024.
Apply too, and then we could just
right, but if there's
accept the grant as a reimbursement or something.
Mm-hmm.
Front the money and then.
That's
you got 2 weeks to do it, right? November 1st?
Sounds like it.
Could we put in,
So we need to get on it.
put a grant in for the monitoring thing for Island?
Well,
For
that's water quality money.
That's already done.
It's already paid for.
Yeah.
It has to align with their objectives. So Clean Waters Comprehensive Conservation Management Plan 2020.
Yeah, we could probably apply if we chose to. Right?
I think the big
Do we want
question
to?
is the Peconic, is Georgica in the Peconic system? And would they consider Georgica in or out of the Peconic system?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do some additional water testing.
Personally, I'd be surprised if it is.
Yeah.
Maybe something
It's
in
not
the
connected,
feed,
it's
put
connected
the
to
water
the ocean.
testing out there, or
Everything,
I don't know how they look at it.
everything upland is going into the pond. Going.
Well,
and
it's
then-
like that question comes up with the Water Quality Committee too, because, you get applications from ocean, people who are on the ocean side of the, how the water flows, the watershed. And the question is, are we funding something that's, not flowing into the harbors, flowing towards the ocean?
Right.
And, it's a debate. I don't know how the PEP looks at it, but we could find out. We could either apply and see what they say, or we could ask the question.
We could ask the question, because I know they have that Lake Agawam in Southampton. I wonder if they are involved at all with getting the water to stop being piped out into the ocean directly. So we could ask the question.
Yeah, but why don't we do that? Let's find out if the pond is within their area.
And when are when is the town closing on Wainscott Pond?
Oh, I don't know. They had the hearing last night.
Uh-huh. Do you have any idea of the time frame?
They voted too, didn't they? Did they vote later in the meeting?
Oh, I
they
don't know.
probably did.
I think they did.
Francis and I were there for the
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
public
it was
hearing.
overwhelmingly supported.
So do you have any sense of a time frame? When?
No, you're gonna have to ask the town.
There were some details they had to work out. Scott Wilson spoke about some of the stuff.
I think they need to create a historic district, but I don't know if that'll.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to
That's
hold
gonna hold up the closing.
But some of the things, it sounded like they were going to have to segment the property a little bit. Part of it's, historic district.
Patrice, could you find out from PEP if it's within there?
Yeah, I can ask, I think I'm going to see Joyce Novak tomorrow, so maybe I'll just ask Joyce, or I'll contact this program administrator on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
I would ask Joyce. That's going to be where the answer comes from anyway.
I know. Yeah, she's giving a State of the Peconic talk at North Sea Community Center tomorrow.
So do you have more on that? Did we interrupt you?
Me? No.
Okay.
No, it's very brief. They only sent out a few paragraphs about it, and the video conference was quite brief.
Okay, aquaculture, Nappy Harbor, DEC shellfish classification change.
Well, this came across our office, I know, since the last meeting. I just thought I'd mention it for the public's benefit. The northeast corner of Napeague had been closed to shellfishing seasonally by the DEC because they felt that there weren't adequate bird deterrent systems on the shellfish hatcheries' field grow out gear. The hatchery worked to add bird deterrents, different kinds of bird deterrents. And I guess this DEC positively responded to that. I'll read the highlights of the change from the DEC's communication. Napeague Harbor, the recent downgrade of 36 acres of Napeague Harbor from certified year-round to seasonally uncertified from May 1st through October 31st has been stricken from the rulemaking, and the area has reverted to its previous classification as certified year-round. So you can clam again in the northeast corner of Nappy Harbor.
Okay.
Without worrying about being ticketed.
While we're on that, we got a letter this morning from the DEC. They'll be resuming the conditional shellfish harvesting program this winter, which is administered cooperatively with local towns. They're looking for. I am contacting you to request your recommendation for one area in your town which local shellfish harvesters are interested in having its water quality evaluated for the possible conditional harvesting program in the upcoming winter months. Do you have any recommendations?
I think we should, the last time we did participate in the conditional program, it was in the northern part of Accabonac Harbor. And it required a lot of testing, water quality testing by the DEC, by us, and DEC did the actual lab work. We did the collection. And it was opened for the conditionally. And there was really nothing, it turned out not to be really worth the effort. It wasn't really much found. Only one bayman that I know of poked around in there and didn't find anything worth going back for. It seemed to be the best closed area in town to try for a conditional opening. But I don't know what the time frame is on that, but I would suggest that we, let the public know that DEC is asking if a closed area, if the trustees or the town in general would be interested in opening a closed area conditionally, let us know. And we can evaluate it based on that need or perceived need.
We haven't till November 8th.
Are there any testing requirements and stuff that we have to?
There will be, because there's a lot of pre-testing necessary to determine what the rainfall level would be under which harvesting would be allowed. That has to take place in the few months before the opening with the conditional.
We've done these in the past, and it requires testing after every rain and stuff like that, right?
I forget what the procedure.
It was a lot of work. Really complicated,
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, you need a good place,
Yeah, you'd need it would have to be worthwhile opening. And I don't know, the northern area of Accabonac is not it. I don't think the southern part of Northwest Creek is worth it. I'm not sure what the other areas, potential areas would be.
We're open for suggestions, I guess, right?
Alewife Brook planting?
Alewife Brook is not, that would be under the county. The pond itself, you mean?
No, not the pond, but just that area is closed right now to shell fishing right off the road there, and that's not county property.
That's state water stuff.
That's state.
Yeah. I don't know if that would fall under. Sure. But I think, if we don't get requests from the shellfishing community, it's a lot of effort for not really much return or any return.
All right. Blue-green algae counts.
Yeah, since the last meeting, there were some results from Pond Lane and Wainscott Pond. Pretty high in Wainscott Pond, actually. So I don't know if anyway, the 23rd of September, which was the day of our meeting, I'm not sure if I got this before the meeting and read the number or not, but that was Pond Lane Pond is 150, almost 158 micrograms per liter. September 25th, they tested Wainscott Pond. That was 555, almost 556 micrograms per liter. 9th of October, Wainscott Pond went up to 620 micrograms per liter. And I got a notice today that they just tested Pond Lane Pond and it was 50 micrograms per liter. So
they're still all over the limit.
Yeah, the limit is 25 micrograms per liter. So it's Pond Lane Pond has been between a low of 32 back in July, a high of 157 just the day of the last meeting, September 23rd. So it's been generally in the it's been 30s, 90s, 60s, 90s, 90s, been in that range. Wainscott Pond's been worked its way up into the 400s by the middle of July, and it's been 4, 5, and now 600 by October. So it's staying up there in the 5 and 500, 4, 5, 600 range.
The numbers usually fall as it gets colder, correct?
Well, I think the reason we started testing up in Swan Pond and Pond Lane Pond was because one of the residents there noticed it in the winter and got some gratis testing by Stony Brook to show that yes, in fact, there is a bloom in there in the winter, persisted into the winter. So.
All right. Move on to administrative. We have payment of the bills. We haven't met in 3 weeks.
Yeah, was that Hudson Russ bill reviewed by Chris or?
This is a negotiation on the original bill, and they agreed to cut it in half.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
So we're just looking for your approval to pay that. Louis Joe's Avalon Aguilas LLP, $2282.50 for legal services. East Hampton Marina, $160 for fuel. East Hampton Marina again, $1,450.57 for fuel and $285 for fuel. Why are there 3 different invoices from the same place?
So they give them to us as they come in. So one of them is for fuel, one of them is for
Fuel and cleaning.
This looks like it is, you're looking at East Hampton Marina, correct?
Yeah.
That's a typo, I'm sorry. That $1,450 is not just for fuel. It looks like something changed here. That was for the winterization of 2 of the boats and for fuel in addition.
Okay.
If I'm looking at it correctly. And then the other one, I separated it out and the $285 was just for fuel alone. So it seemed, because they were separate invoices, to put it on here separately.
Okay. Montauk Marine Basin, $449.99, fuel and cleaning supplies. East Hampton Star, $552.51, legal notice and a thank you ad after the clam contest. East Hampton Business Service, $96.50, clam contest thank you poster. T.V. Bennett, engineering, $370 for engineering services. Riverhead Building Supplies, $53.33, pump out supplies. Intact Insurance, $4,850 for the boat insurance policy.
What was the engineering?
What was the
I
engineering?
believe that referred to, I don't recall exactly, but I do believe that was referring to work that he had completed around the Girard Drive culvert and working with the DEC.
Yeah, we're trying
Getting them
we're trying to get that permit modified.
Open later. Open.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have minutes from March 25th, September 9th, September 23rd, available for review.
I took a look at them and
All of them?
pretty sure, right, Allison?
Yes, you and I believe Celia, and as far as I know, remember, those are the only things on there, but yeah, these two of you looked at them.
They look good to me. I reviewed them, they're fine.
Okay, we have 3 people. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, does anybody have anything else before we close?
Yeah, just quickly, East Hampton homecoming is tomorrow, football game, and the parade. We're gonna have the East Hampton trustee vote in the parade, the pump out vote. John's driving. I'm gonna be in the back with 20 East Hampton middle school students from the Surfside Environmental Club. So any other trustees are welcome to join us. We're gonna be throwing out candy, and it's the first time we're having the football game in Herrick Park in like 50 years.
Oh, the game's in Herrick Park.
It's in Herrick Park.
Oh.
They're doing a whole village kind of a community event. So the parade starts at the high school and goes to Herrick Park instead of the other way it used to go.
What time do you have to be up there?
The game's at 1, I believe.
What time's parade?
Parade's at 11 to 12. So if you guys, we're just like 10, 10:30, we're gonna be at the high school.
Okay.
So anyone wants to come?
Try to make it.
Thanks, John.
Might have to bring the kids.
Yeah, and then the Santa parade, we'll be in it again. So you guys can join us for that.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
Motion to close.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.